Hi everyone, this is a conversation with Mattie Faint. He's been a professional clown for 50 years and it was a really interesting conversation into such an unusual career. I think the highlight was probably hearing about his time entertaining children at Great Oldman Street Hospital. And yeah, I hope you find it interesting. If you do, please hit subscribe and thanks for watching. Okay, Mattie, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you. It's great. Great to have you in my bargain basement here.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about where we are, first of all, and what kind of items are around here?
This is the museum's collection, the Clown Museum's collection, which is ended up in my basement because we don't have premises at the moment. But I'm sure we will. But during lockdown, this has been perfect for me because I've been fixing, looking at DVDs. Basically, it's been a really lovely place to be. The funniest room in London, I've called it, because I think it was, Pity I was the only person seeing it, because it houses so many memories and so many people's lives down here, clowns that have spread their laughter throughout their life and have now ended up in a box in my basement.
You've got the world's largest egg clown collection in here as well, 300 eggs.
Yeah, the clown egg collection is fascinating. It's a record, a 3D picture, if you like, of somebody's clown face. And it started before the Second World War by a guy called Stan Bolt, who was a clown and circus enthusiast. And he started putting clowns' faces on eggs. And his collection was vast, about 300 or so clowns he'd done. Most of them from life. He'd gone to the circus and caught the clown backstage and painted his face on an egg. And we reinvented the egg register in about 1985. And we have about 250 eggs that have been made since then. So it's a vast collection and needs a lot of display, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. And Mattie, you've been a professional clown for over 50 years.
Yes.
But I want to go back to the start of your life first of all and kind of run through things. So you were actually born in the same hometown as me.
Plymouth
and Devon.
Plymouth Bay.
Can you tell me a little bit about your life and what it was like growing up?
Well, it was interesting because I was growing up in Plymouth after the war. The war had only been over 7 years and Plymouth was very badly devastated. The whole centre of Plymouth was destroyed because of the dockyard. So a lot of bomb sites. Not that I grew up playing on bomb sites, but I remember the bomb sites, So it was, and also I'm named. I was born in 52, and Matthew means a gift of God, and Neville, which is my second name, means new city, Newville, new city. So I'm a gift of God to the new city, which is very clever for them to think that up. But it was great to grow up in Plymouth. I don't think I'd want to live there. I think you and I, we talked earlier, both left at a really good time. We left to find our fortune. Great place to grow up with Dartmoor just around the corner. Dad always had a boat, so we were either on Dartmoor or we were out on the boat. Dad was an artist. He was a silkscreen print commercial artist on the Barbican of Plymouth, but always going out with a sketchbook or his oil painting, and we'd find amazing places to sit and he would paint for hours, So yeah, it was a great place to grow up.
And what were you like as a child? How would you describe yourself?
Well, not an only child, but my sister's 8 years older than me, 9, 8.5. So we grew up separately, if you like. And my hobby was puppetry. From the age of 5, I was getting dirty washing and putting wires across the bottom of the legs of the table and making little shows, to play around. And my father made me, for my 6th birthday, a puppet theatre. It was his second-hand hobby. He never really liked puppetry, but he could see exactly what I wanted. So he made me a beautiful puppet theatre, which started off as hand puppets. And I wasn't into hand puppets, I was into string puppets. So all of a sudden I had a stage without holes in it. It made me a stage, and then wanted scenery. So he made me a fly tower to go on the top. And then next birthday I get lights for it and curtains. And I just took... I took it and ran with it. And I was always up in the bedroom making shows. Again, not surprising that I should go into performing, or working in theatre, actually, because it's great having a puppet theatre, but it's very small. And I love theatre. I love the inanimate object of theatre. There's something about working in theatre which is just very sacred in a way. You walk into a building which is quite cold and quite eerie sometimes, and then by the evening it's turned into this fabulous purveyor of entertainment, and then whoosh, it shuts down again. Whoosh, it's great. So I did puppetry right the way through, but then I started doing lots of plays at school as well. We've seen everything, and making the scenery, and doing the soundtracks, doing all sorts of things. But my father was not against me working or doing stuff after school. He just, being a sort of Victorian dad, would say, "You don't go to school to do that. You go to school to, get educated." Well, I am getting educated, But he was ill, which was very rare for my father, and he was in bed with a heavy cold. And he read in the Daily Mail about the National Youth Theatre, which is sponsored by the Daily Mail. And he just said to me, "Why don't you audition for this?" Wow, Dad actually saying that I should go and do something in the arts. So I auditioned for the youth theatre. Went to Bristol, first time on a train by myself. I think 3,500 people auditioned the year I got in. And I went back for a second audition, and I was accepted into the youth theatre. Not as an actor, as a prop maker and scenery maker. And it was a fantastic education in Chalk Farm. In fact, I did a gig in the same place that we used to make props in. I remember this place when I was 17. It was fab. And then I went straight into working into theatre. I had a choice. The course finished. It was a 10-week course, making 6 productions, not just for London, but Germany and Newcastle, I think we did, but Sunderland we did a production for. And Roundhouse, we had plays, and it was a real experience. But come the end of the youth theatre, you sort of, thank you very much, good night. So I touted myself around the West End. And I got a job as an assistant board operator at a theatre that's now gone. The Savile Theatre, which is the Odeon in Shaftesbury Avenue, Upper St. Shaftesbury Avenue. It used to be called the Savile. Very famous theatre, was owned by Brian Epstein. And he'd just died when I went to work at the Savile. and he used to put on Sunday concerts there. And they cancelled them all, but there was one they couldn't cancel. It was the Rolling Stones concert. So we had a set on stage with 3.5 tons of sand and a tank called Enemy, set in the Second World War. And we had to move 3.5 tons of sand and all the set for one night for a Sunday night concert with the Rolling Stones. Which, fab! Got to meet the Rolling Stones at 17, you know. I don't think I'd ever seen so much money. I worked like 48 hours non-stop, slept in the theatre, you know. But I started clowning when I was working at the Shaftesbury. In 1971, I started clowning, rehearsed at the Shaftesbury on the stage of Hair. My first real sort of clowning was done at the Zion House Garden Centre in Chiswick in the summer holiday, 6 weeks there, as a walking signpost, really. It was a puppet festival, so I was directing traffic and we were doing little shows, and I just loved it. The art of transforming yourself into a completely different person when you're in a clown costume. And I've said it many times, it allows you to be mad controllably. You have this wonderful freelance approach to life where everything is a prop and everybody is part of the act if they want to be. And it's always been my other character right the way through my life, and sometimes I have yearned to be a clown because it just gives you such energy which you don't have normally. You just can't be mad in life. People just look at you strangely if you suddenly go, "Oh, hello, how you doing?" Think you're absolutely off the wall, which is great, because there's always the secret within your own personality that it can come out at any time. They say once a clown, always a clown. Where was I?
Well, that's good. I was just going to ask, actually, because you said that you like being able to become a second character, a second person, and this freedom, and you don't have to be a bit mad. But why do you think, why are you drawn to desiring to be a second person? Not everyone has even thought of that. Why do you think you're like this?
I think it's what you can do as that second person. The sort of clowning that I've done is quite rare. For instance, I worked for 19 years as a clown doctor, which was, I think, one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had in life, to walk into a hospital. And I used to work at Great Oldman Street at least once a week, sometimes twice. Many other hospitals as well, but always Great Oldman Street. And we were classed as doctors. We were laughter therapists. So I worked for a charity, the Theodore Children's Charity, and virtually started the charity in London. There were 2 of us when I started. And when I left, 36 other huge organisations supplying performers around the country in lots and lots of hospitals. Of course, all that is at the moment on sort of hold, because with COVID, any hospital work is not allowed anymore. Interestingly, I had a rudimentary training to be a clown doctor, far more training now than I ever had. And it was brought home how serious the work was at Great Oldman Street, because I'd done work in hospitals with another charity called Pod, where you go to a playroom and you just entertain the children that are the walking wounded, if you like, that can come to see the show. In Great Oldman Street, we used to do bed-to-bed work, and far more intense, because Great Oldman Street only deals with extreme cases. If you nobody in Great Oldman Street has a broken leg, for instance, they're all serious conditions. And I remember my first day, new outfit, had it on before but never face an outfit, and I'm now going out of this door dressed. So we're changing in a disabled toilet, two of us, and I said, I'm just going to go outside just to walk around. Back of the building, 3 lifts, school, play centre, staircase. Very busy when I went in. And so I came out and the door went bang behind me. And there were just 2 people where there were hundreds before moving. And they were just standing there. And they looked at me when the door went bang. And I went, hello. And they went, all right. And I said, oh, you don't look very happy. And they said, no, we're not. Our son's just died. Oof. But right away, they brought in the other side of the job for me, because the job is not just working with children in a hospital. You're working with the parents. They're going through far more stress than the child is. So I just put my arms around these 2 and just held them really tight like this, and we just had a big hug. Then the lift came and took them away. And I went back into the toilet and went, oh my God. Ah. And we had a hug. A lot of hugs when you're working in that environment. It was not easy work. And I think what people forget about performing, and certainly in clowning especially, is you're hired to do a gig at a venue. You've never been there before. You don't know anything about the people you're working for, really, apart from a phone call or 2. You don't know where to change. You don't know where to put your props. The whole thing is like a completely made environment, and you're the catalyst that's going to create all the laughter through it. And sometimes getting to the place, I used to do all my work on a motorbike, on a scooter, all my bags and my props on the back of a scooter. And I would be going all over London working, because you take a gig, you don't know where it is until you look it up. Oh my God, that's miles away. Ah. And the rain, and you can imagine doing anything on a motorbike, So you arrive at a venue, you're soaking wet, you're late, you have to transform and appear in record quick time as another character for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and then take it all off and get back on a motorbike and go home. It was very interesting times, but it's a good challenge. Life is a challenge, and I always found the work in the hospital to be the best clowning I've ever done, because the rewards can be instant. You can be in a room for 3 minutes and change the whole atmosphere in that room. And I have punched the air many times when you leave a ward or a room and go, yes, I did that. 3 minutes worth of, I used to have a mantra, which was 3 laughs and I'm off. And I've made you laugh well 3 times. I have to go, because you've got a lot of people, just a 4-hour shift with maybe 10 minutes off for a cup of tea. It's a lot of walking for a start. You can, and you have the forms to fill out. You know, it was quite an adventure.
Throughout your career, have people of different ages reacted similarly to your performances? You know, children at Great Oldman Street and adults. Do people react very differently at different ages? And why do you think people react the way they do to clown? And
I would say, well, obviously it's a different reaction from a 3-year-old than you'd have from a 23-year-old. But I've not ever had a lot of, "Oh, you're scary, go away." I've never had a lot of that, because you learn to see it from a distance. You can see when somebody doesn't want you to be near them as a clown, so you don't go near them. If you're working in a hospital and you know children are going like that, you don't go near them, but you might reference them, and you might go back and see them later, because you've got other conditions which you have to take into consideration, like medication, pain. I remember making somebody laugh and them say, "Oh no, go away! Oh, my stitches are hurting! Oh no! Oh, I can't laugh anymore! Go away! Go away!" So yes, you have to be a bit careful in the hospital, but very interesting work, and I used to love it. Yeah. I used to love it, and I only really stopped doing it because I got shingles. I got shingles quite possibly from the hospital, but the result was I couldn't work, and I couldn't sleep. Couldn't sleep for weeks and weeks and weeks. I couldn't sleep because of the pain and the itching and. So I retired from clown doctoring. I just said, I just have to rest. But then I went to Australia to work with a mate of mine who used to be a clown doctor, set up clown doctors in Australia, around Sydney, now living in Newcastle when I went to see him. And he was working with dementia, working in care homes. So I was going to change my whole sort of career. Instead of working only with children, I would work in care homes. So I did a lot of training, a lot of visits to a lot of care homes, and trailed. But I really didn't. I could do the work, yes. Did I really enjoy the work? No. I found it very depressing because my mother was going into dementia when she died, and everybody I saw was in varying states. Dementia is not just one level. You have extreme cases where people are just forgetful at one end and completely absorbed by this terrible affliction. And it was also the idea of moving to Australia. When we first talked about it, I was going to learn and bring the charity here, and he was going to come and be the ambassador, and I would have been the agent, if you like, to find people to do the work. But because of funding, his whole organisation of about 80, 90 performers he had, all through New South Wales. The money ran out, and so he. But he's my age as well. That's another thing. When you're in your late 60s, do you really want to take on a whole other career in another country? Nah. Great holiday and fab guy to be with, because the two of us are like two peas in a pod.
Yeah, so it'd be good to just go back in time again a little bit. I wanted to ask you, when you were at school, you said you were very into the theatre and this kind of stuff, but your peers and your friends at school, were you the joker? Were you known as someone who made people laugh from young age?
My nickname was Smiler, which always sounded like a criminal to me. "Oh, it's Smiler!" Yes. And I was saying to you earlier about going back to the reunion at my school, Burley, in Plymouth, before it was pulled down, and meeting up with kids I was at school with sort of 30 years before. And none of them were at all surprised. What are you doing now, Matthew? I'm a clown. Oh, yeah, thought you would do something like that. Nobody was at all surprised.
And when you decided that you wanted to pursue this as a career, what did any of your friends or your family think about that?
I think they all thought it was great. I think my career has been very not spectacular, but I've worked in a lot of countries for quite long stints. I worked in Africa for 7.5 years, and I worked in Barbados for 3.5 years. To Japan. I mean, how wonderful is that? I've been to Japan twice with the Rocky Horror Show. 16-city tour the second, 3 theatres the first year. Second year, 16 cities, went all over Japan. So, yeah. And Barbados, it was fabulous. I lived on the beach. And my clown suit has always been my other suit. In fact, probably the only suit I have, because I don't wear suits. But you know what I mean? My other persona in a box. And when I went to Sun City, I worked at Sun City. Well, I worked at Sun City for 5 years, 2.5 years in Lesotho. When I went to Sun City, when they booked me, I was Chief Public Relations Officer. And I said, the same people that used to be in Lesotho. So when you're in a management team, they like their friends around them. So that's why I got a phone call. Because I'm the sort of person that can put my hand to anything. And I enjoy that. I'm an Aryan. So I love projects. Projects are really important. And certainly during lockdown. Filled with projects, my life, in lockdown. But I remember saying to them, can I bring my clown suit? And they said, oh, you'll be far too busy for any of that. I said, but I always take my clown suit. Yeah, bring it. And it was wonderful because I was PRO in a white suit, like a white tornado with flashy shirts and a handkerchief and white shoes, and my assistant were both coordinated colours, red shirts today, and the change from that to dressing in a clown suit, and because I was PRO, I put on 3 circuses for the kids on the grass, and we had a hot air balloon going up and down with kids in it, which was fun for a while until the wind came up and the pilot said, oh, this is getting a bit dangerous for the kids. Hey, why don't you and I go for a balloon trip? Okay. Put on a crash helmet though. So I put on a red crash helmet, which looked great with the clown suit, and whoosh, off, we took the ropes off and off we went. And Sun City was about this big, in distance. Then the wind stopped. And I said, what do we do? Do we do this? Where do we go now? So we came low over the ground to get current off the ground. And he said, right, I'm coming down. I'm going to land it here. I said, no, this is the game reserve. We can't land in the game reserve. So we crash landed. It's dark now. But I have a red flashing nose as a clown. And I have a bow tie with light bulbs on it. And we crash landed way off the road. They were following us in the car to pick us up, but we were way off the road. So we found our way back to the road with my bow tie. Flashing red nose, telling them where we were. It was fabulous. But it was a great place to work. Great place to work for.
Have there been any things throughout your career that you found difficult about performing as a professional clown? Is there anything that's been tricky or difficult?
Where to start? I think every time you dress as a clown, it sets its own course, if you like, because you don't know, as I said earlier, you don't know where you're going to be performing, don't know what the kids are going to be like. You know, kids after tea, when they've all had 3 Cokes and lots of sugary cakes, you know, they're lethal. They hit, and it's like, oh my goodness, you know. Can be, not always. It's a rule of thumb, if you do a kids' party, try not to let them eat first, because you will have the results of that to deal with. Tea will be easy, and then there'll be like 20 minutes, and then there'll be climbing the walls, and then you have to try and focus them to sit down to watch a magic show or to play games. You know, it's a path of sugar quite often. Come into a kid's party house and you see the tea table, you think, oh my goodness, it's all sugar. It's all sugar. I'm going to have a nightmare in about 20 minutes. So not always an easy job, but you're employed to do a job. So you have to fight your way through it. It's the warning signs along the way that make you realise this may not be an easy gig.
And how did you learn to perfect your craft? So how did you train to become a professional clown and to act right? And how long does that take? And where did you go to do it?
I think there was a lot of instant fun for me and comedy, which came from me. And that's basically what clowns are. It's their personality, the clown personality bursts forth. I'm not a juggler, but I do a lot of magic. I've always got pockets filled with magic. I can stand in one place for 20 minutes and do a show. Quite often we have musical bum bags that strap around your waist, so you've got music to move you through. So you're a walking show, shopping centre work or fetes or garden parties or stuff. So the work is quite instant from that perspective. Training wise, working as a clown doctor, I learnt a lot of all sorts. We had a whole range of training put upon us, which was very helpful. We were quite a big organisation. Theodora had, based in Switzerland, they had satellite charities, France, Germany, Belarus and Russia, which is a story I'll tell you because I was sent to Belarus, which is in the news now. I bet nobody knew where it was until recently. So yeah, a lot of really good training, which helped me greatly in the hospitals. Greatly.
Can you say a bit more about how you'd actually explain what a clown is? What are they trying to do when they're performing, and why does what they do actually entertain people? What's going on there?
Well, it's a very you're the catalyst to laughter. It's your art as a clown to make people laugh without hurting or embarrassing, but just pulling on their funniness. So it's quite a fine balance. You have a relationship with your whole audience. For instance, if you're doing a kids' party and you're adults at the back, they have to be on your side. They can't be talking, because that will upset the entire thing. So you're inviting them into the show. Oh, what you got around your neck? you're sort of bringing them into the whole fabric. So that wasn't the question you asked me, though, was it?
You said, how would you explain exactly what a clown is and,
okay,
and what they're trying to do when they're performing?
Yeah, well, that's it. You're the catalyst to laughter. Your aim is to lighten the load. And in the hospital, as I said earlier, was probably the most the best clowning I've ever done, I think. But twice I've met the Queen. I met her at the Albert Hall, and we shook hands, and my nose flashed as we shook hands, and she went, "Ooh!" like this. And as she walked off, one of her attendants said, "Thank you very much for that. The Queen, Her Majesty's had a cold, and that's the first time we've seen her really laugh for weeks. Thank you." So, oh, how nice. And then about 3 or 4 months later, she was opening the ITN building in Gray's Inn Road, where ITN News comes from. And I was just employed to be a clown to look after the staff children behind a barrier in the foyer. And I had a lot of fun before the Queen arrived, playing around outside. They were building a building opposite, and all the workers were sitting on the scaffolding, ready for the Queen's arrival, and it was all getting busy. And the Queen's here, the Queen's here. Oh, right. Behind the barrier, and we all had our flags, and got all the kids to go hurrah as the Queen came in on the red carpet. Came in, went downstairs, and I carried on with the kids, doing magic and making balloons. And Queen's coming back, Queen's coming. Right, ready. Like this, she came onto the red carpet, came opposite me, looked in my direction, came off the red carpet, came straight over. She said, "Hello, have you been entertaining the children?" I said, "I surely have, Your Majesty." And she said, "Yes, I could hear all the rumpus when I was downstairs." "Well, so nice to meet you again. Goodbye." And then the Duke of Edinburgh went past, and he said, "You don't work here as well, do you?" And I said, "Yeah, I read the news on a Sunday. Have you seen me?" And as they went, I thought, oh my goodness, wow, what an encounter with the Queen, And she really, I hadn't realised how small she was. Oh. But her face really lit up, And I've thought to myself, all the trials that wonderful woman has gone through, in recent years especially, maybe she needs a court jester. Maybe I'll write to her and say, "Hey, do you fancy a court jester?" And why not? Life is for seizing the moment.
How has being a clown in your career affected your personal life? What effect has that had on you and the way you look at the world?
Well, I think there are spin-offs in clowning, in that, for instance, I'm a very positive thinker, and I don't like negative people. So I'm always looking for humour, and always looking for things that are nice. There are a lot of people that live their life very much, shall we say, the East Ender way. Oh, yeah, down the pub. I'll get you. It's all, steer clear, like the Desiderata says, steer clear of loud and aggressive people. And I've managed to do that in my life very quickly sometimes. Meet people saying, no, don't like you. You're negative. And a lot of people thrive on negativity, and I don't.
So it's helped you maintain a good positive attitude.
Yes, absolutely. All the way through my life, always. And I have little mantras. I did a course in laughter therapy, completely separate to working in the hospitals. I did this course. And there are a few little mantras. Certainly, the morning exercise I do every morning, which is laughter yoga. Ho, ho, ho. Ah, ah, ah. If you do that for 5 minutes in the mirror, I do it when I'm shaving in the mirror. If you do that, your whole body becomes alive with the endorphins, which, as you laugh, the body doesn't know whether you're doing it because you're laughing or you're making the laughter up. Doesn't matter. As long as you laugh, these endorphins are released into the system, and you feel better. And it's my wake up. I don't do much other exercise. I might as well exercise my face because my body doesn't get a lot of it.
Do you think if anyone tried that for a few days, they'd notice an effect? It makes you feel better.
Absolutely. And it's a well-known fact that if you stick somebody who has cancer in a room with 300 DVDs that I have here, I've got everything from Mr. Bean to Laurel and Hardy to you name it. I've got it on my shelf. If you chained somebody to a television and told them to view all those, they'd have to laugh. It would bring them out of their depression. Sadly, life is not easy. It hasn't been easy for a long time, and it's getting far more complicated. War doesn't help, but it's getting far more complicated anyway with the cost of living and supermarket prices going up. But I think if you have I'm quite a spiritual person as well, so I focus very much on water features and water and fresh air, going up on Hampstead Heath and go for long walks on Hampstead Heath. Fabulous. We're both from Devon. Dartmoor was always my home as a kid, or out on the boat with Dad. I mean, how wonderful is that? And how many children that live in London don't have that opportunity that we had as children? Life is very different for a lot of kids, sadly.
You've worked with a lot of other clowns. Is there a certain personality that lends itself to being good at this job? Are you often pretty similar people, or is it a real mixture? It's a real mixture. And people come to clowning because it's a release, a relief, a new channel. They come to clowning for all sorts of reasons, and they come from all different sorts of backgrounds. Quite often, people that have had quite a completely different career have fallen into clowning. My career has been very much theatre clowning related because I started at 19 when I started clowning. It was a natural for me in a way because I was just keen to do it. And it was a good path. And I thought, this is fabulous. This is me. And you know it within yourself, And it's such a pity at where we are presently with entertainers and the COVID and everything of this freelance nature sort of shut down completely. Because new clowns and young clowns become clowns because they see clowns, because they enjoy what's happening and want to be part of it. That's what clowning's all about. You don't have to be a clown. There's nobody saying, right, you're going to be a clown. Well, probably unless you work in circus and you were a trapeze artist and you fell and broke your leg or your arm, even worse.
then clowning is a career that you're probably not forced into, but it's if you want to stay in circus, you've got to work, and you've got to find something that you're able to make some money, because there don't have many freeloaders in circus, sadly.
I also wanted to ask you about, and we spoke a little bit about this earlier before we met on the phone, about how clowns are sometimes used in the media or films or culture, this kind of thing, sometimes in a kind of negative light. So the 2019 film, the Joker, they used a kind of clown figure there in this kind of negative sense.
Yes.
Kind of, what do you make of that?
Well, I saw it on like It. I've never seen. Actually, I saw 10 minutes of It on the way to Australia, and when the first gory bit, I thought, no, it's easy on a plane. You should switch to another channel. I thought, that's all I want to watch. And the Joker, I think I watched more of the Joker, because there's a whole sort of psyche behind his Joker character. But no, it for me was painful to watch, you know. And the whole, shall we say, Pennywise, that character from It, very scary, and you know, not what we're all about as clowns. It takes the clown face in a totally different direction. In fact, interestingly, the scary clown, and it was in the papers, and people with hatchets in car parks dressed as clowns and stuff, normally around Halloween, because these masks used to come over from America, and they were in the shops and people bought them, and instant clown, an instant reaction by putting on a horrible mask and appearing in a car park at 11 o'clock. It's guaranteed to make anybody freak out. But interestingly, there was a bit of a backlash against these masks, and you see very few of them now. There was an era where these were imported from the States. They're all American. That culture came from America, of It and everything. But I was going to say, luckily, our audience for clowning is this high. 4, 5, 6, 7. Most of those children don't have mobile phones, don't have access to scary photos, so their approach is pure, and they just see clowning as good fun. You know, children laugh 300 times a day, and when you get to be an adult, you're lucky if you laugh 3 times a day. You know. And this whole thing of people being scared of clowns, people are more scared of bananas than they are of clowns. Clowning in the scary poll is 18, bananas is 3. But it's the painted face. It's also being personal space. As we were talking earlier, that when I see people that you can see they don't like you, the eyes go like this, and then you don't go near them. There are many other people to entertain. You know, don't go near people that don't want you near them. Simple.
I feel like in films and maybe in culture, the clown in a negative sense is, as you say, in movies like It, is just used as a scary, horrible character and a monster. But in the Joker and some other things, I think the idea is maybe a little bit different. It's not supposed to be necessarily a monster. It's more that the kind of clown mask and the appearance, it's a kind of a mask for a supposedly happy character who's actually a little bit sad and struggling. Is there any truth to that at all in any of the clowns you've met, that maybe people are drawn to performing sometimes as a kind of way to cope with the fact they actually are not as happy as they seem beneath?
Yes, absolutely. You know, clowning is offered to people as a sort of a release interestingly, I've been to a place called El Ain twice, which is near Dubai, to a theme park. The theme park was called Hilly Fan City. And I went there first as a clown for Ramadan. And we walked the park, very much like Thorpe Park, with that big structure like they got at Thorpe Park. Well, they had exactly the same structure. They also had an ice rink, which was the same as Thorpe Park as well, same company. And so the first year, just walked around as a clown, having wonderful time in all in all that heat, because clown face and sunshine don't go too well together. Neither do heavy costumes. And the second year, that I heard they were going back to Hilly City. So I phoned the agent and I said to him, "Hey, you're going back to Hilly City. Do you need clowns?" He said, "Oh no, I'm doing a Batman show." I said, "Well, I'm an actor as well." He said, "Oh, I'll think about that." And he phoned me and he said, "How do you fancy being the Joker in Batman?" So basically there was a big show in the evening and they had a Joker, and he did trapeze and trampoline and high wire, did all sorts they all did. But we had a team that went around in the original Bat car. Ancient, I think it did 12 miles to the gallon or something. It was like huge, and dressed exactly the same costume. In fact, I used to make up the main Joker every night because the makeup was so complicated. But I would spend the day doing photos with all the children on top of the information centre. So I played the Joker, but kids loved the movie, so we were all, shall we say, appreciated. And also in countries like the Middle East, they don't see clowns. It's like a rare event, and there's no preconception. They just enjoy the fun of clowning.
Yeah, so people just obviously enjoy that fun. I think I was actually asking slightly more though, as the person who is the clown, not the audience viewing it, not the audience viewing it. If there's the idea sometimes, isn't there, in these films like the Joker, that it's a happy character and they're smiling, but they're actually struggling themselves. They're sad and they're kind of putting this figure on to kind of to pretend that they're not. I was wondering if you've ever encountered any people who are clowns themselves. Who are miserable, who are maybe miserable, before. And they're doing this because of this reason, because that's the other kind of idea that's used in movies, and like we said about It, this is a kind of a silly idea that they use these monsters. Is there any truth to this idea at all? This was kind of more of the idea in the Joker.
Yeah, no, I'm sure a lot of clowns have their own problems, which clowning has helped them through, I think, because there's a lot of clown workshops where people aren't becoming professional clowns. They're finding their clown within their personality through workshops, through walking workshops, through expressioning, through just laughter. I mean, laughter workshops can be amazing. I went to a laughter workshop in in Green Park, under a tree, all around this tree, and it was just a laughter evening, and it was been raining, so everybody got ground sheets down. I didn't realise it was a picnic as well. I just went along. I had 2 Kit Kat on me, that's all I had for the picnic. We all laid on the floor around this tree, linking hands, and we just started laughing. And you take a laugh around the circle, so one person will start it, and the next person will try to continue it and maybe change it. And I remember this very well-dressed lady with heels saying, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" You're having a laughter workshop. Oh, it sounds wonderful. Can I join in? Of course. And then somebody else came in, and there were about 15 people around this tree, and we were all laughing hysterically. And when we got up, everybody was hugging, and we didn't know anybody. Laughter is such an important theme, should be, through our lives. It will save our life. You know, when you laugh, it allows your soul to breathe. In fact, there's a lovely quote from Mike Myers: "The laughter blows the dust off your soul." And it is. And Charlie Chaplin said, "Laughter is the closest distance between two people." And it's true. When you meet somebody, you look at their eyes, and you immediately have a ability to sort of read their soul quite often, and it's that you're trying to bring out of somebody when you're getting very deep now. But that's it's good. True. Yeah. Laughter is an important part of our life that we should never ever lose, which hopefully continue through all of our life, and hopefully we'd always have the ability to have access to it, you know, if only personally, by watching funny films, by doing funny things, or creating a nice space. You know, I'm a litter fanatic. I'm always picking up Coke cans off the floor, and because it makes me feel good that the place looks tidy, you know, that I'm helping other people who are lazy, basically.
What's been the best thing about your career? Is it simply that thing of just making people laugh and being a bit happier? What's been the best and most fulfilling part of being a clown?
Well, that, in a nutshell, 50 years of making people laugh, it's been great. And there haven't been many times in my life that I can honestly say I haven't done clowning. It's been the thread through my life. And I think if you cut my arm off, it would say, like a stick of rock, it would say clown all the way through it, you know, because as you can see in this room, I'm surrounded by them.
So the last question I wanted to ask you was about your plans for the future. What have you got planned? I know that you've got a documentary about you coming out.
Yes,
Tell us a bit about that.
A guy called Shane O'Neill. Every year we have a church service. It used to be around Grimaldi's grave in Pentonville Road in St James's Chapel. That's where the first one, the clowns were around his grave, and it became a memorial day for Joseph Grimaldi. If people don't know, he was a clown from about 1800, very famous in circus, in pantomime. But pantomime's went on 6 months, and you know, they made little statues like this. So when you went to see a show, instead of buying a DVD or a CD of the show afterwards and a program, you bought a little statue and a hand-painted, coloured-in painting of him working. I've lost my track. Where was I? I
was saying about the documentary.
Oh, yes. Yes. So the church service, that's right. So I've been producing the church service for years, putting in the performers into this a big service, 600-700 people in a church in February, which is quite something in London. And it was a beautiful occasion, fantastic for everybody to meet up. fantastic everybody to have some fun. Memorial service. Also to say goodbye to clowns that have passed in that last year. And a good get-together for everybody. And I've been coordinating the people that want to do documentaries or take photos for years. And this guy came to me wanting to do a documentary, but an in-depth documentary, me organising the event and talking about the event. And then about a third, maybe a bit more, had already been recorded. And then we had COVID, which changed the path of the documentary. So it's become a documentary really about my life, in a way, what I've done in my career. And it's just called Clown, with a subtitle, It's a Serious Business Being Funny. And I talk seriously about exactly what I've been talking about now. How it's not always easy being a clown, but always enjoyable afterwards. So it's not quite out there yet. It's only 12 minutes. And he's made it as a sort of a calling card for his future work, because he's a freelance director. So this is him saying, yes, this is what I can do. And it's a really nice piece, because he's had weeks, months probably, to put it together because of COVID. Everybody was working from home. And how better to sit in your office and edit. And he put cartooning in it. It goes into cartoon 4 times in 12 minutes, with me going into voice, going, oh, hello. It's very funny. Makes me laugh, and I'm in it. That's the other thing about when you watch yourself. I can watch myself and think, oh, he's funny. Oh, God, it's me. It's a weird thing. Mm-hmm. When you put on a different face, you can almost view yourself completely separately. Like, was that really me?
Well, we look forward to seeing that, and thank you so much for speaking and for sharing your story.
Oh, my pleasure.
And for bringing a little bit more joy and laughter to the world as well. So,
absolutely. Us Plymouth boys, got to keep the world laughing.
Exactly. Thanks a lot, Mattie.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you enjoyed the Human Podcast, please consider subscribing. I hope to see you soon.